Thanks everyone who's joined here on time. We'll just wait a couple more minutes to allow for others to join, and then we will get started. Okay, we should have a few more join in, but I think we'll get started for now anyway. I will the session will be recorded. So what I will do is I will upload the session into the Google Drive folder, which I've shared with you, which has the PPT from today's session, along with some additional resources and information for you there, as well as my contact details as well. So thanks everyone who has joined for this informational webinar on play therapy, where I'm going to give you kind of a brief introduction about what play therapy is and also talk you through the training which is offered by the National Association for Play Therapy India. Sure, lots of you are likely to have some questions, but I would say a lot of your questions may get answered as we go through the webinar. But feel free to type them in the Q&A box, and then at the end we'll have a chance where if you want to raise your hand and ask a question, you will be most welcome to do so. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Lucy Bowen. I am a play therapist from the UK, and I am the founder of the National Association for Play Therapy India. And I also facilitate all of the courses that are offered by us at the National Association for Play Therapy India. I personally have more than 20 years of practical experience, and I'm also a member of the International Consortium of Play Therapy Associations, which means that I deliver all of our training with the National Association for Play Therapy India in line with the international guidelines and standards in play therapy training. So I'm going to start by providing you with a brief outline about what play therapy actually is. So within play therapy, play is something which is understood as children's primary form of communication. So children tell us about their inner world through play long before they're able to link words to their experiences through the use of language. So through play, children can experiment with, process, and master different skills and experience. So it's through this medium that they form a sense of who they are, whilst learning to understand that others can be different from them. Relationship skills, such as being able to trust, to respect, to emphasize, to share, and to cooperate with others, these are skills which are also developed through play. So play therapy then, it's actually a form of counseling or psychotherapy for children that builds on this developmentally appropriate form of communication through play. So it enables children to explore challenges or difficult experiences within a safe environment. So the trust, acceptance, boundaries, modeling, reflectiveness of a certified play therapist who will work alongside the child to facilitate and to empower them will enable them to feel more confident in expressing their thoughts and feelings, develop their emotional vocabulary by accessing the language the play therapist relates to their experiences, can help them to develop more socially appropriate behavior, to improve their self-image and self-esteem, to improve concentration and organization, and to become more confident and creative in their play. These are just a few of the benefits, and I'll go on to talk about much, much more benefits as we go through the webinar today. So play therapy then, it is a specialized therapeutic intervention which is led by certified play therapists who are trained to address deep emotional and psychological challenges through a structured therapeutic process. So slightly separate from this, we have something which is also called therapeutic play. And therapeutic play is a broader approach that can be facilitated by parents or other professionals to support children's healthy development and to help them manage specific stressful situations or developmental challenges. And both play therapy and therapeutic play utilize the therapeutic powers of play. However, play therapy in particular is grounded in a specific theoretical framework and is generally conducted by mental health professionals, which can make it ideal for addressing more complex emotional needs, whereas therapeutic play might be used to enhance the child's overall development, or it might be used to address challenges associated with neurodiversity, for example. And the National Association for Play Therapy India, then, we offer both short-term courses, which would enable you to integrate therapeutic play into your practice. And we also offer fully comprehensive routes and training to become certified as a play therapist or a therapeutic play practitioner. So as I mentioned then, play therapy is grounded in a specific theoretical framework with specific core principles which are built on and followed. So a play therapist or therapeutic play practitioner will be taught skills such as tracking, reflecting, how to empower children through play, and they will have an in-depth understanding about the therapeutic powers of play and how children learn, develop, communicate, heal, and grow through the powers of play and the therapeutic relationship. So it's important to note that simply playing or using toys in therapy is not what constitutes play therapy. And what you'll find is that many therapists, parents, or educators, they use what we refer to as play work. So they may integrate toys or play into their practice, but this is usually with a set agenda. and there's usually a hierarchical relationship in place and a number of rules to be followed. So play therapy, in contrast, has limited rules and is a child-centered approach, which is non-judgmental and focuses on the emotional well-being of the child. And although play therapy then is a specific therapeutic intervention and can be used as a standalone therapy, parents and other professionals such as teachers, special educators, psychologists, counselors, speech therapists, occupational and physical therapists, social workers, pediatricians, and other healthcare professionals who receive training in play therapy would also be able to integrate the principles, skills, techniques, and interventions into their practice and use play therapeutically. So the British Association of Play Therapists then, they define play therapy as being the dynamic process between the child and play therapist in which the child explores at his or her own pace and with his or her own agenda those issues, past and current, conscious and unconscious, that are affecting the child's life in the present. And there's a few important things to note from this definition. The first is that we go at his or her own pace. So we don't attempt to rush the therapeutic process. We go at the child's pace because child play therapy is a child-centered approach. The next bit there is that we work on issues which may be conscious or unconscious. And this is because the power of play is it can provide access into the child's internal world. It can help the child to express something which they may not be consciously aware of, something which they may not be able to put into words. Now, for example, you might have a child who's just throwing everything, a child who's distressed all the time, and they might not understand why. But this child may be experienced severe neglect shortly after they're being born. So they've got these big, overwhelming distress and feelings, but they're not able to make sense of them at a conscious level. And the power of play therapy is it can bring those things to the surface. Children can express and explore, play out their experiences, which may have happened at a pre-verbal stage even, through utilizing the powers of play. And the next thing then is we work on things that are affecting the child's life in the present. So we focus on the child in the present moment. We don't focus on what we might know about past trauma, or we don't focus on any specific diagnosis we might know that the child has. Rather, we trust the child to take the therapeutic process where they need it to be in that particular moment in time. And there's two main elements to the process in play therapy, and they're both equally as important. One is, of course, play as being the child's primary mode of communication. And the second is the therapeutic relationship, which is built on unconditional positive regard and trust for the child, and a trust in the child's ability to work through their challenges when appropriately facilitated and empowered, which is the role of a play therapist or a therapeutic play practitioner. So some of you may be familiar with person-centered therapy, which is a humanistic form of counseling, which has the belief that each of us has a natural potential through which we can actualize and through which we can find meaning. And in this approach to therapy, there is a focus on respect and trust for the client. And within this form of therapy, a client should experience a sense of responsibility. They should experience the therapist as genuine, interested, and empathetic. They should experience the process of exploration. They should experience themselves, and this should lead to them experiencing change. And the goals of person-centered therapy then is to increase the independence and integration of the client, to focus on the person and not the problem, to create the conditions necessary for positive growth, to develop an openness to new experiences, trust in oneself, an eternal source of evaluation, and a willingness to continue growing. An important point in person-centered therapy is that the relationship between the client and the therapist is everything. And this relationship is characterized by equality. And there's also an understanding that there are no specific stages to the process, as it's all about the client's own process of change and growth, which must happen at their own pace. So child-centered play therapy then is based on this person-centered or client-centered work, which was developed by Carl Rogers as a form of therapy for adults. But a play therapy is, of course, adapted to apply to work with children. And it's been developed primarily by Virginia Axline. And in the Google Drive folder that I shared with you, you will see a folder which says books. And there are two books by Virginia Axline, which are kind of foundational texts for anybody who is interested to learn more about play therapy. So I've uploaded those full copies of the books for you there. So it works on a similar premise that we all have within ourselves the ability to solve our own problems. And the role of a child-centered therapist then is to facilitate the client's growth. So the counselor then does not lead or take responsibility for the direction of the play. And we understand that play then is the child's primary mode of communication. So Axline developed 8 principles which we follow within play therapy. And that's that the therapist must develop a warm, friendly relationship with the child in which a good rapport is established as soon as possible. The therapist accepts the child exactly as they are. The therapist establishes a feeling of permissiveness in the relationship so that the child feels free to express their feelings completely. And the therapist is alert to recognizing the feelings that the child is expressing and reflects those feelings back to him or her in such a manner that the child gains insight into his or her behavior. The therapist maintains a deep respect for the child's ability to solve their own problems if given an opportunity to do so. And the responsibility to make choices and to institute change then is the child's. So the therapist does not attempt to direct the child's actions or conversations in any manner. The child leads the way and the therapist follows. And a therapist does not attempt to hurry the therapy along. They understand it's a gradual process and is recognized as such by the therapist. So the therapist then establishes only those limitations that are necessary to anchor the therapy to the world of reality and make the child aware of their responsibility within the relationship. So a role of a play therapist or a therapeutic play practitioner would be to create a welcoming environment where the child is held with positive regard, to restate what the child says, if anything, to reflect feeling and content, to set limits in the playroom that prohibit the student from hurting themselves, us, or the materials. We have an emphasis on the child and the natural way that a child can work out an issue. We, of course, participate in activities and play. We need to have an understanding of themes that arise within the child's play. We need to have an understanding of the different developmental stages of play. We need to create a safe environment which the child can get in touch with who they are, what they're thinking, feeling, wishing, and dreaming. We learn about reflective listening and language skills. So we learn not to judge or interpret, but rather reflect on what we see and experience with the child. We believe in a child's own ability to find a balance in their life. And we might sometimes make suggestions, but be aware that the responsibility for accepting and applying these suggestions rests on the child. So we always give the child choices because children can't accept responsibility for something they did not choose themselves. So learning how to build the relationship, learning how to empower children through play is a major part of the training that you would receive in play therapy. And our objectives in child-centered play therapy then would be to help the child to develop a more positive self-concept, to assume greater self-responsibility, to become more self-directing, self-accepting, to become more self-reliant, to engage in self-determined decision-making, to experience a feeling of control, to become sensitive to the process of coping, to develop an internal source of evaluation, and to become more trusting of themselves. So, of course, that's given you a brief outline of the principles of play therapy and some of the techniques that as a play therapist you would learn to utilize with children. But of course, as I said, there's two parts. There's the relationship, but there's also the play. And if we think about why we're going to use play then when we're working with children, well, play in itself is something which is essential for any child's learning and development. And when children engage in play, we work on their holistic development. Simultaneously, their physical, their cognitive, their imaginative, their creative, their emotional, their social. It's all being worked on simultaneously. So it's important to understand that play is a child's work. Play is not something which should be given as a break from real learning. Play is the natural language of children. It's how they learn, how they develop, how they communicate. And in addition to there being, of course, a huge array of developmental benefits to engaging in play with a child, there's also a huge number of therapeutic benefits as well. Play is something which is fun. Play provides an avenue for children to have the freedom to express and explore themselves as well as their environment. Play is non-judgmental, so there's no right or wrong way to play. Play can provide catharsis, can help children to purge themselves of negative thoughts and feelings. It can allow them to experiment with real life situations, provide an avenue for creative problem solving. And what's really, really powerful is it allows children to express what they might not be able to put into words. So through art, through music, through play, through drama, children can express, they can explore, they can communicate. And this, as I mentioned, can provide us access and insight into the child's inner world. And if you're working with challenges such as trauma or abuse, adverse early years experiences, the use of play materials and symbols and metaphors can help to provide a safe distance from children from possibly traumatic or re-traumatizing material. And this is a really great diagram outlined here that can show you some of the amazing therapeutic powers of play. There's 4 aspects to this. Play can help to facilitate communication by providing an avenue for self-expression, provides access to the unconscious, and it can also provide a way for both direct as well as indirect teaching. Play can also help to foster emotional wellness. So catharsis, reaction can all take place whilst engaging in play. Positive emotions can help to counter conditioned fears, can help with stress management and stress inoculation, can also help to increase personal strengths. So it can help with creative problem solving skills, building resiliency, moral and psychological development, can help with emotional regulation, self-regulation, building confidence and self-esteem, and it can also help to build relationships and improve social skills as well. Through the therapeutic relationship, children try out different ways to relate, to engage, they build attachment, they develop empathy, and they develop social competence. So we can see then how play in itself is beneficial. And we can see then how combining play with therapy and the therapeutic relationship can help children to make sense of their life experiences and to work through any specific challenges that they might be facing. So as I said, it can help children to express what they can't put into words, can also help them to express emotions in a safe and healthy manner. For example, a child might engage in sword fighting or punching on the punch bag, different forms of aggressive release play. And this therefore reduces the chance of children acting out in real life situations. And children then within the therapeutic environment, they receive emotional support and can learn to understand more about their own feelings and their thoughts. And what we find is that sometimes children, they may reenact or play out traumatic or difficult life experiences in order to make sense of their past and cope better with their future. And what we find is that when children play out their experiences, just like when we talk about our experiences, the more they gain mastery over these. And what we find is that different types of play, which can be utilized in play therapy, are going to have different types of benefits. So, for example, engaging in sensory play can help with emotional regulation, can help reduce anxiety, can help build attention and focus, can help build relationships, can help children to connect and learn about their environment. Projective and role play can help children to make sense of their experiences. And as I said, often children might not be consciously aware of what's bothering them. And what we find is that the themes that come up in the play help us to understand the child's challenges. For example, if a child plays all the time that there's a princess and she's stuck in the tower and there's nobody that can help her and she's trapped forever, this is going to be indicative of themes of powerlessness. And our reflective language, which we use then as a therapist, can help the child to gain insight into their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors. And what we find is that sometimes, if you're dealing with trauma, especially trauma, abuse, neglect, this may have happened in pre-verbal stages. So children might not have a conscious memory of events which they can process or communicate verbally. I worked with a child who had both autism and reactive attachment disorder. He was neglected by his birth mum. And when he was a toddler, he was tied to his high chair and fed inappropriate food like crisps and chocolate, things that weren't appropriate for a child of his age. And what he used to do in the play therapy sessions, I had 40 sessions with this child. He was verbal, but never spoke a word. He used to sit me down on the pushchair, tape me up with sellotape, and try to feed me spiders. So he's communicating, he's processing his experiences non-verbally through the power of play. And as a therapist, what I can find is that often children transfer feelings and elements of their experiences. Sometimes I can be left feeling helpless, confused. And this is often how a child has felt in a particular situation. And, verbally, children could never convey those experiences in such a powerful and insightful manner. And play itself is so empowering for children. A child can take on powerful roles. They can become a policeman. They can become a superhero. And this is going to help to build their confidence, build their self-esteem. And in play therapy, the child leads the play. So this allows them to experience a sense of control and a sense of control over the outcome. And this can be so important because children who attend play therapy very often have had so many experiences, so many things happen in their life which they don't have any control over. And another reason why play therapy can be so powerful, especially if we're dealing with trauma, is that we deal with symbols and images. And often when we experience trauma, it gets stuck in the right brain and we're unable to process it cognitively. But our right brain deals with images, whereas our left brain deals in words. So by using images in play, the child is therefore able to access and connect the traumatic event stored in the right brain and therefore begin to start to process this. So we can see then how there can be so many benefits for children to engage in play therapy. It's going to allow them to express and explore through art, music, through play, through drama. We're building that therapeutic relationship. So we create a sense of safety, trust, a nurturing and familiar, consistent, structured, and comfortable environment. It also gives children the permission just to play and have fun and just to be kids, which they might not always get a chance to do if, for example, they've experienced trauma or they're neurodiverse and all the time they're bombarded with these expectations to act in a developmentally appropriate way. When actually, due to these challenges, there may be developmental gaps in their play, in their development due to missed stages. And play therapy allows children to go back and regress to these earlier forms of play and development to bridge the gaps which may have been missed or not mastered, which can be really, really important. So just a few of the benefits of play therapy then can be things such as increased self-confidence, improved decision-making, improved feeling of control over the environment, enabled adaptive play, resolution of emotional barriers, reduced feelings of anxiety, depression, and anger, relationship building and social skills development, develop cognitive functioning, problem solving and abstract thinking, improved fine and gross motor skills, increased autonomy, increased relaxation, increased learning and motivation to learn, improved self-expression, decreased feelings of separateness, adaptability and flexibility, and the list does really kind of go on and on and on. So play therapy can help in so many different situations. So it could help with bereavement, parental separation, children who might have been subjected to or witnessed abuse or bullying, children who have had nightmares, children who have illnesses, children who have experienced trauma or abuse, children who have anxiety or low self-esteem, even depression and other mental health issues, children who might have behavioral issues such as anger outbursts, children who may have learning difficulties, children who may have sensory processing issues, difficulty with emotional regulation, low mood, anxieties or phobias, school refusers, communication, interaction, and social difficulties, as well as developmental disabilities, neurodiversity, or physical challenges. So we can really see that essentially, play therapy can be used to address any emotional, social, or behavioral challenges that a child may have. And this may be whether it's in relation to trauma, abuse, neglect, adoption, mental health challenges, physical differences, challenges at home or school, neurodiversity. And depending then on which population of children you are working with, the National Association for Play Therapy India offer a full range of training programs. So currently all of our programs are offered online, but I provide personal guidance throughout. And with most of our programs, you will engage in practical activities throughout to fully understand the therapeutic process. Because it's our belief that you first need to engage in these practical activities personally before beginning to implement these with children in order to gain a full understanding of the therapeutic process. And I just wanted to note here because a few questions had popped up regarding what age play therapy can be applied with. So when play therapy was first introduced, the recommended age was with children 3 to 12 years. However, it can now be utilized with children, adolescents, and adults of all ages. The approach which you use, however, may differ dependent on the developmental level of the client that you are working with. Typically, you may find that a more non-directive approach is utilized with younger children, whereas you might find more directive interventions work better with adolescents and adults. And we cover both non-directive and directive interventions in all of our training programs. And it's also important to note here that, if you're working with children who have experienced trauma or children who are neurodivergent, then their developmental level might not always match their chronological age in terms of their social and emotional development, which is again why play therapy can be so beneficial, as it can provide an opportunity for children and even adults to regress to earlier stages of play or development as required in order to bridge the gaps in developmental stages which may have been missed or not mastered. So I'm going to talk you through our various training programs now. And if any of you would like to review any feedback from these or be connected with practitioners who have undertaken our training programs, please do contact me after the session and I'd be happy to share these. And we'll also be sharing some interviews in the coming weeks as well. So many of you may have viewed the list of training programs that we offer and are unsure of where to start. So we recommend to start with the play therapy as a counseling tool and or play therapy for children with special needs program. And these would equip you with the play therapy principles, skills, techniques, and interventions to integrate into your practice and start using play therapeutically. You then have the option to progress to the more advanced programs if you want to work toward becoming a certified play therapist or certified therapeutic play practitioner. So there are no prerequisites for either of these two programs. However, if you are looking to fully train as a certified play therapist, then you may be required to complete additional training as part of the accreditation if you do not have a background in a related field. And I'll go into more details about this when I talk about the play therapist accreditation. So, play therapy is a counseling tool and play therapy for children with special needs. These programs can be taken individually or alongside each other. And these generally can be completed in 4 to 6 weeks, but there are no deadlines or time restrictions, and you can take as long as you need. And each of these two programs has 6 modules, which are made up of 3 parts. So each module has the first part, which is a tutorial video lasting about an hour with an accompanying PowerPoint presentation, additional resource materials, and then an assessment. So play therapy as a counseling tool then will cover the following topics. It will cover what is play therapy principles and techniques, how play therapy can help and who it can help in more detail. It will look at the therapist's role. It will teach you how to empower children through play, teach you about reflective listening and language skills, will help you to understand trauma and abuse. It will cover directive and non-directive methods and material. It will look at themes and stages in play. It will look at art, music, and storytelling in play therapy. It will cover Sandtray therapy, and it will also cover ethical considerations and guidelines for getting started. And as part of this program, you will engage in lots of practical activities, which include things like creative visualization, Sandtray, art, and storytelling activities. So this is the first step if you're looking to become accredited as a certified play therapist, or if you just want to know more about how play therapy can be used for counseling children. Play therapy for children with special needs differs because it focuses on more on developmental model. So more on kind of therapeutic play, understanding the importance of play, the different developmental stages, and the various skills which can be acquired at the different stages of play. So within this course, there will be a specific module which will focus on sensory play and the importance of this as a foundation for all learning development, as well as its importance for emotional regulation, for building attention, for focus and independent engagement. The skills which are often missed or not mastered in children with special needs will be explored, and you'll gain an understanding of how to empower children through play, helping to build and expand on their skills and interests, furthering their development in all areas. So this will include speech, language and communication, cognition, fine and gross motor skills, emotional regulation, social skills development, and executive functioning. And I'll just note here as well that although this course is entitled, play therapy for children with special needs, this can also be a beneficial program for parents of young children, as well as those working in nurseries or preschools, as it would advance your understanding of child and play development. So following on from play therapy for children with special needs, then, we have the Play Therapy Skills Special Needs Program, where within this program, you would begin to put into practice what has been learned in that first course. And this will include designing your own play therapy space, session planning and analysis, as well as assessments, goal setting, and progress monitoring. So throughout this course, you would gain a further understanding into conducting both individual as well as group play therapy sessions, and the use of music, art, drama, and different forms of play, including sensory, projective, and role play, would be further explored. And we do offer a play therapy for children with special needs double certification package, which includes both of these two courses. If you're then looking to further your skill set, we have the play therapy interventions for the differently able training program, which looks at specific techniques and interventions to address challenges associated with different diagnoses. So it specifically looks at autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, cognitive and learning disabilities, as well as speech, hearing, and visual challenges. And again, this is a more advanced program, so we do recommend for you to have first completed play therapy for children with special needs before continuing for this program. And if you complete play therapy for children with special needs, play therapy skills special needs, and either play therapy as a counseling tool or play therapy interventions for differently able children, then you will be fully accredited as a certified therapeutic play practitioner for children with special needs. And if you go about completing all three programs, you will receive a certificate of completion for each one. And then once you've completed all three courses, you would receive an additional certification with your therapeutic play practitioner accreditation. And we give you the option to complete these three programs individually, or we do offer a package deal for the full accreditation, which includes all three programs plus free membership, where you would not only gain access to loads of free exclusive member resources, but also be listed on the website playtherapyindia.org as an accredited practitioner. And I'll speak a little bit more about membership towards the end of the webinar. Okay, so I've spoken about play therapy as a counseling tool and then gone on to elaborate about all more of the advanced programs that we offer for special needs. So I'm now going to speak about the more advanced programs which follow on from play therapy as a counseling tool. So these would be appropriate for those of you working with neurotypical children, dealing with children's mental health, any issues which could be relating to trauma, abuse, neglect, or any specific social, emotional, or behavioral challenges that a child might be facing. So following on from play therapy as a counseling tool, we have play therapy skills, which delves much, much more deeply into the process of play therapy. And you'll engage in lots of practical activities here to fully understand the therapeutic process. And there'll be modules on setting up the play therapy room, understanding symbols and metaphors, the neurobiological power of play, reflective listening and language skills, group and family play therapy will be covered, as well as assessments and endings in play therapy. And play therapy as a counseling tool and play therapy skills are the two mandatory training programs which you are required to complete for the Certified Play Therapist accreditation. And we also then have one further advanced program available, and that is play therapy interventions for specific client groups. And again, throughout this program, you would engage in a lot of practical activities, and we have modules that are specific to things like helping children manage anxiety, building self-esteem, play therapy and ADHD, developing social skills with play therapy and trauma, as well as PTSD, play therapy with children who have experienced sexual abuse, play therapy with looked after children, play therapy in hospital settings, play therapy and OCD, play therapy and depression, and play therapy and disruptive behavior disorders. And we do also offer individual training modules on any of these topics for those of you who might be interested in learning more about just one or two of those topics in particular. So that's provided you with a brief overview of the programs that we offer. So now I am going to share with you the full criteria for becoming certified as a play therapist. And all these documents are available here in the Google Drive folder, which I've shared with you. There's a PPT, there's a list of all our training programs, there's my contact details. And I'm just going to go through the criteria for becoming a certified play therapist now. So there are two options. One is, of course, to complete the training and supervised clinical hours directly with us at the National Association for Play Therapy India. Or the alternative is that you would be able to submit a portfolio demonstrating that you have completed sufficient training and supervision to satisfy the practice requirements of a certified play therapist. So it's not to say that you can only undertake play therapy with ourselves. However, I would stress that if you were looking to take play therapy training with another training provider, do really be sure that you check the credentials of the person providing the training, and also make sure that it is in depth and theoretically grounded, because there are unfortunately a lot of people who aren't play therapists who are providing some play therapy training, and maybe they're just pulling a little bit of this and a little bit of that from other short trainings or from textbooks. So you want to make sure that you are engaging in a properly accredited training program by someone who is a certified play therapist with relevant experience. So that's something really important. So the first step to becoming a certified play therapist then is to complete the sufficient training. So if you are undertaking training directly from the National Association for Play Therapy India, then as I mentioned, the two courses, play therapy as a counseling tool, these are the mandatory and minimum training requirements. And of course, I've gone through the topics that are covered in these training programs. So if you were undertaking training elsewhere, you would need to make sure that you had in-depth training in all of these topics, and that your training did include all the practical activities and assessments. So it's an equivalent training as to what is offered by the National Association for Play Therapy India. And if you've received training elsewhere and you're not sure how much of it was covered, you can contact me directly, and I'm happy to work with you on a kind of customized program to fill in the gaps of anything that might be missing from your other training as well. So the next step, the next part of the criteria that needs to be satisfied is your knowledge of child development and developmental psychopathology. So in addition to training in play therapy, certified play therapists should have a solid understanding of child development, play development, and developmental psychopathology. So this can be evidenced by studied in a related field, such as an undergraduate or master's degree. So that could be something such as in child development, or it could maybe be in social work or psychology or education. But you would need to provide certificates and transcripts to prove that you have studied modules on these specific topics. If you have not studied these subjects, then you will be required to take additional training programs. So in terms of your understanding of child development and play development, if you have not studied this or do not have a background in a related field, then you can satisfy this part of the criteria by completing the play therapy for children with special needs and or the play therapy interventions for differently abled children program. And if you don't have or haven't studied child or developmental psychopathology, then you again can satisfy this element of the criteria by taking the play therapy interventions for specific client groups program. So completing the required training is the first part of getting the certified play therapist accreditation. Once you have completed the required training, you would be able to use the title therapeutic play practitioner. And then once you go on to satisfy the next part of the criteria, which is the personal therapy and the supervised clinical hours, then you would receive the full certified play therapist accreditation. So in addition to completing sufficient training in the field, to become a certified play therapist, You must also complete a minimum of 100 supervised clinical hours with a 1:3 ratio of supervision to practice hours. So that means that for every 3 sessions that you see with children, you need to have one supervision session where you discuss your cases. And it's recommended that practitioners undertake a minimum of 3 clients at a time during their practice hours, and at least one intake or assessment and one planned ending should be included within your supervised hours. Because your supervised clinical hours is where the real nitty-gritty learning takes place, because you're going to be talking one-to-one with your supervisor about your cases. So if you opt to have supervision with us at the National Association for Play Therapy India, generally I personally provide the supervision. And how it works is that I would provide you with relevant documentation to record your sessions and monitor your own practice. You'd fill in this, you would submit this, I would review this, and then we would have a 1 hour session to discuss your cases. So generally, to complete 100 supervised clinical hours, you would need to have around 30 to 35 supervision sessions. If you choose to receive supervision elsewhere, then you must provide a supporting letter from your supervisor, and it should include a supervision log to confirm you have received the required number of sessions, along with details of your capacity to conduct play therapy sessions. In addition to your supporting letter from your supervisor, if you have not received supervision from the National Association for Play Therapy India, you will also be required to submit case studies, which include case notes, report, practice description, etc., to evidence your ability to practice. The final element then is personal therapy. And this is important because working with children and families can often trigger strong feelings and or unresolved issues in relation to your own experiences. So personal therapy is therefore required to ensure that you have worked through these issues to prevent them impacting your practice. And undertaking personal therapy also allows you to experience the therapeutic process from the perspective of the client and to engage in personal reflection, which will be a requirement during your play therapy practice. So certified play therapists are required to have completed a minimum of 35 hours of personal therapy. And this should be evidenced by a personal statement from your therapist detailing your personal therapy log and a statement confirming that there is no known reason why you should not practice as a play therapist with vulnerable children. And you would also need to submit a reflective account to demonstrate how your experience of personal therapy has impacted your professional practice as a play therapist. And for your own personal therapy, you can choose any medium you want, whether you want personal centered, whether you want to see a CBT therapist, EMDR, creative arts, whether it's in person, whether it's online. That's completely up to you to match yourself with a therapist whom you would feel most comfortable working with. If you've had personal therapy in the past, then you can absolutely use those hours to count towards this element of the criteria. And in terms of your supervised clinical hours, these can be conducted at your own place of work, or if required, we can assist in helping you to find a placement to complete these. So that kind of wraps up the full criteria of becoming a certified play therapist. So as you can see, becoming a certified play therapist does require more in-depth training and the completion of supervised clinical hours, whereas just by completing the training, either following on from play therapy as a counseling tool or following on from play therapy for children with special needs, you can receive the therapeutic play practitioner accreditation. Okay. So I think I'll stop sharing. And I think we can go to any questions which people may have. So, as I say, this was an informational webinar, so it was really just to provide you with an overview of play therapy. So we're not going to go into any kind of in-depth practical aspects of the training here, which is why I've kind of talked you through all of the different training programs that are available. So a lot of questions, which is going to be most relevant for children with special needs, because obviously I have outlined a few different options for special needs. So if you're looking to work specifically for children with special needs, let me just bring up the course list again for you. If you're working with children with special needs, then you're really going to be wanting to look at options 4, which is play therapy for children with special needs, as this is always going to be the first course which you need to complete. Then you can also look at option 6, which is play therapy for children with special needs, the double certification. Or you can look at option 8, which is the full package for becoming a certified therapeutic play practitioner for children with special needs. So I've got another question. So I've got a question. Do we really need to focus on behavioral therapy if we do play therapy? My answer would be no, absolutely not. Play therapy would be an alternative to behavioral therapy, such as CBT or ABA. The main difference is that in behavior therapy, the focus generally is on modifying the behavior. Whereas in play therapy, the role is to address the underlying challenge or the underlying need which is causing the behavior. So yes, absolutely, we will find that children's behavioral issues will improve when they engage in play therapy, and also what we'll find is that they will generally won't come back because we're going to address the underlying issue which is resulting in that behavioral challenge. If we only focus on changing or modifying a behavior and we don't address the underlying issue or the reason, then we'll find that that behavior will manifest itself in another way. Whereas in play therapy, we're going to look, we're going to look so a child's angry all the time, for example. What's the underlying reason? Is it because the child's experienced abuse, neglect, trauma? Is it because the child is neurodivergent and there's too much pressure, expectation? Or is it because the child doesn't know how to communicate? Is it because the child doesn't know how to form relationships? Is it because the child has sensory processing issues? Any one of these underlying reasons for that behavior will be addressed through play therapy, thereby helping to reduce the problematic behaviors. And also within play therapy, we do a lot of reflection. We help children to gain an insight into their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions. And we also provide them with safe and healthy manners in which they can express and explore their emotions within the play therapy sessions as well. So another question, can we pursue this even after bachelor's in psychology? Yes, absolutely. As we said, we would start with play therapy for children with special needs or play therapy as a counseling tool, and there are no prerequisites for these programs. As you progress to the more advanced programs, they are fully comprehensive, and it's just if you don't have a background and haven't studied child development, play development, and child psychopathology, and you want to go for the full play therapist accreditation, then you are required to take those additional courses which are mentioned as well. And just to mention here as well that if you're going through the courses for the play therapy accreditation, now you have the option to do these one by one, or if you'd like to register as a package deal, you can also get in touch with us and we can offer package rates there as well. Okay, when do we do personal therapy? After the training or when? That's completely up to you. When you're working for your play therapist accreditation, you can engage in personal therapy whilst you're doing the training. You can engage in personal therapy after the training whilst you're completing the supervised clinical hours. If you've already had personal therapy, you can use those hours towards that component of the accreditation. That's completely up to you as and when you feel it's most appropriate and most comfortable. Yeah. Sort of question about videos implementing play therapy with a special needs child. So as I said, today is really an informational webinar just to provide you with an overview about what play therapy is and how it can help. if you do go ahead with our training programs, there will be lots of videos available for you there. So asking about the fees, so I have shared the links for each of the training programs. We try to make our programs as affordable and accessible as possible. So our programs do start from 5,000 rupees. And if you are looking to take more than one program or looking for our package deals, we do offer further discounts there. And you can go through the links to find out any information that you require. And once you've gone through those, if you need any more details, you can feel free to get in touch with me. And all of these courses that I've mentioned, these courses are all self-paced. So there are no live classes for these courses. As I said, they're all self-paced. You can go through at your own time, at your own pace, at your own convenience, but I will be there providing you with personal guidance throughout. I realized actually I stopped sharing my screen. I actually had more slides just to go through before we finish off. Then we can see if there's any more questions. I'll just answer these last couple of questions and I'll go through my last few slides. So as a parent of a special needs child, if I take the basic course, will it contain practical sessions? So as a parent, some parents prefer not to take the full certificate course. So for our Play Therapy for Children with Special Needs program, we do have an option for just 2,500 rupees for parents where they would get access to the videos and the materials, but it wouldn't include the assessment or the certification. Some parents do prefer to go for the full certificate program because it will then obviously give them experience and certification, which they may wish to use to help other children and other families. In the first course, Play Therapy for Children with Special Needs, there will be practical examples given in all of the videos. And of course, if you've got any questions as to how that relates to your work with your own child, I'm available to answer any of your questions at any time with any of the programs that we do offer. And as all of these courses are self-paced, there's no timelines for completion. As I said, generally you can kind of complete maybe one module every week in some of the courses as a guideline. But again, you're not restricted at all by time. We've had some people who complete a course in maybe 6 weeks, whereas other people have taken 2 years to complete the same course. It's absolutely completely flexible. Another question, is there a difference between a certified or registered play therapist? No, it'd be essentially the same thing. Different countries might use different titles. We say certified play therapist, but as a certified play therapist with the National Association with Play Therapy India, you'd also be a registered member. So you'd also be listed on the website as a certified play therapist for clients to search for there as well. So I'll just go through the last few slides that I had available, and then if anybody's got any other questions, we can just answer those at the end. So I have lots of people who ask the question then is, well, if I take this training in play therapy, then, how's it going to be beneficial for me? Where can I use it? Where can I work? But of course, if you're already practicing as an educator, or you're a parent, or you're a psychologist, or you're a speech therapist, or an occupational therapist, or you're a counselor, or you're a pediatrician, you can, of course, integrate the principles and the skills, the techniques, the interventions into your current practice, and of course, use play therapeutically alongside your practice. But you may also want to practice independently as a play therapist or a therapeutic play practitioner. And so I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the settings you might be able to do this in. So play therapy can, of course, be utilized by parents at home. Many therapists may also offer home support or visits. Within schools, the principles, techniques, and interventions can be applied in a classroom setting. Play therapy sessions can also be conducted in schools, and and can help with academic performance, bullying, school refusal, building confidence and self-esteem, helping children with social skills, children whose school attendance or performance might be influenced by difficulties in the home environment, adoption, divorce, birth of a new sibling. Play therapy can also be used in hospital settings. So children undergoing medical treatment, children with long-term or terminal illnesses, children whose parents may spend extended times in the hospital. Play therapy can be utilized at NGOs, working with NGOs that work with children or adults. This could be underprivileged children or adults, children in care, children who have experienced trauma or abuse, including sexual abuse, NGOs working with neurodiverse or physically challenged children. Can also be used in child development centers or private practice. So again, this could be working with neurodiversity, physical challenges, developmental differences, speech, hearing, or visual impairments, mental health challenges, or again, any type of social, emotional, or behavioral difficulties which a child might be facing. And being trained as a play therapist or a therapeutic play practitioner, you'll also be a specialist in play and child development, child empowerment. Now, you'll be equipped with relationship building skills, interventions for emotional regulation, reflective listening and language skills, limit setting, and much more, all of which would equip you to provide support and guidance to parents and professionals. So you'd be equipped to support the child's emotional well-being and holistic development in a child-centered way, and can offer various forms of support to parents, families, and their wider support network, either in person or online. So we also offer membership. As mentioned, if you do go through the full process of becoming certified as a therapeutic play practitioner or a certified play therapist, then membership will be provided for free, and you will also be listed on the website as an accredited practitioner. But we do also offer membership to anyone who is interested in play therapy or anyone who is implementing therapeutic play into their practice. The benefits of membership include having a membership number and a certificate, being listed on Play Therapy India under Find a Therapist, having access to the National Association for Play Therapy India members and resources, receiving discounted rates on training programs, regular updates, including free resources and webinars, and of course, ongoing continued support for your practice. So I have a question if there are any webinars focusing on in-depth aspect of play therapy. So currently we don't have any more live webinars scheduled because, as I said, we have most of our training programs which go start from the basics and go all the way up into providing you with that full accreditation. So I would advise, to go through the different courses that are available. As I mentioned, we said to recommend to start with play therapy as a counseling tool or play therapy for children with special needs. They are accessible, they are affordable, and they give you a really great introduction and some in-depth knowledge into play therapy. We do periodically do some live webinars on different topics. And we do also have a live 16-week version of our certified therapeutic play practitioner for children with special needs program, which runs twice a year. However, the next batch for this in July is full, so there wouldn't be a new batch of that until January 2026. So that's a little while off. So all of the self-paced courses, which are detailed, are available for you now. They can be started at any time. As I said, you will engage in practical activities throughout to fully understand the therapeutic process. I'm there providing personal guidance throughout. You get that individualized feedback following each of the assessment, and I'm here to answer any questions at any time. So another question that understand that play education teachers at school can be trained on this. What's my opinion? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think anybody who works with children, and whether that is from a developmental perspective or from a mental health perspective, can benefit from receiving some training in play or therapeutic play. Obviously, for maybe people who are working with children who are maybe from primary and secondary age, that I think they can benefit, especially from the kind of play therapy as a counseling tool program, as that will help them to gain more insight into children's social and emotional development. Those who are working with children with special needs and working with children at a preschool level, then I think that working on the play therapy for children with special needs programs, which focus on the kind of developmental aspects of play and therapeutic play, can be really, really beneficial. And I think anyone working with children, again, parents working from an educational perspective, working from a therapeutic perspective, I think the principles, the techniques, which are learned as part of understanding, tracking, reflected, limit setting, helping children to express their emotions in a safe and healthy manner, working to empower children through play. These kind of elements of play therapy can be practiced and implemented in any kind of session. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay. So if there's no more questions, then we can leave it there for today. Thanks for everybody who has attended. I will share this recording in the Google Drive folder in case any of you would like to revisit this. My contact details are also there, along with details about all the training programs that we do provide. We've also been shared a link to a WhatsApp group if any of you would like to join that, if you would like to ask any further questions. Otherwise, you can feel free to WhatsApp me directly or send me an email with any additional queries that you've got, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So I hope you found it helpful today, provide you with a bit more understanding about the training offered by the National Association for Play Therapy India, and a little bit more about what play therapy is and how it can help. So yeah, thank you all very much for attending. Good evening.